Welcome to DU Digimon.
Hello and welcome to DU Digimon and welcome to another deck profile. If you like this sort of content, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell so you're not missing out on any of the latest content. Today we are looking at one of my favourite Digimon in the entire franchise. He is the Sasuke version of the Sasuke version of WarGreymon. It's Gaiomon. I friggin' love Gaiomon. He's one of my favourite members of the Greymon family. I think only pipped to the post by the OG Black WarGreymon, generally speaking. And it got some new support, got a new Gaiomon in BT22, a new Tamer. So I've tried my best to make the deck work. It's got some little issues, which we'll kind of discuss as we go on, but it's also got a lot of really cool strengths. And as the title of this video is, we have diplomatic immunity to the vast majority of Digimon effects and just general effects coming our way. We have everything apart from total immunity. We have 2/3. We've got the two parts of the Triforce of immunity. We're just missing one last piece. But let's get into the card by card. So I've gone with more of a black base build for this, purely because I wanted to make sure we could facilitate Agumon X. So because of that, I've gone with the black Koromon. We do a lot of attack target switching, whether that be on the defensive or on the offensive. So I thought an extra 1000 DP can't hurt. Granted, a card draw probably would be better, but given that we can't digivolve on top of Koromon with this, it would have to be a black egg, then we're kind of in need of that, unfortunately. And we'll go into the Agumon X first. Reason why we need this as opposed to the red Agumon X, you definitely could play a red base version, and we'll go into some tech cards later, but the reason why I played this is because this is the only searcher we have in the archetype, so in Agumon/Greymon cards, that could generically search any black Tamer. Technically speaking, you could use something like, I think it's LMSBmon. I think that can search a black Tamer, or just any Tamer. You could maybe play the green Agumon, which can just generically search any Tamer, but we want to be searching Greymon stuff, X Antibody stuff, and any one black Tamer. And because we've got two different Tamers that are not Tai in this deck, we need to make sure we can generically search those Tamers. We also get a little inheritable effect from this as well, which essentially gives us a protection effect, where if we've got X Antibody underneath, we can bottom deck X Antibody if we were to be kind of removed from the field, and we can just survive whatever that removal might be, which is not bad at all. Then going into the other Agumons, I'll go to this one first because this is our other searcher, the BT12. Yes, it will whiff on our other two Tamers, unfortunately, but I figured there wasn't really another Agumon that we wanted to use. I did for a little bit try the Dragonkin searching ones, the one that reveals 4 from BT8, and adds a Greymon and a Dragonkin, but that one just whiffs on all of your Tamers, which sucks. You've got no other Agumons which are going to be able to generically search the Greymon and the Tamers, so I figured, to be fair, Tai is one of the more important ones we need in this deck. He gives us the blocker to our Gaiomon, so I don't think it's a bad trade-off, and we pay multiple copies of Yuuko and Yuuya, so we can search them other ways. Then the other Agumon, which I've got at 3 copies, the other 2 both at 4. This one essentially is from the structure deck, so structure deck 15. It gives you a memory when you have the start of main, so you move out of the breeding area. If your opponent's got a Digimon, you gain a memory, and then also gains you a memory when an attack target is switched, and we are attack switching all the time in this deck. It's very much similar to how we played this deck kind of BT12 era, I would say, where we're putting in more of an emphasis on the raiding and the piercing and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, if you're going more with the black base, playing the red base, and it's just always been Unga Bunga Smash. But I found, because we've got quite a few tools to help us with the Unga Bunga Smash kind of generically now, we need some more utility stuff. So there are some other options you could play instead of this, but I've been really liking this because of that memory gain. Then going into our Greymon, so let's get into the elephant in the room first. Greymon X. I so wish this Greymon X was not limited, or at least if there was another black Greymon X, because this one's always a colossal pain in the ass to run, because the moment it becomes the only level 4 in your hand and 2 of your rookies are black and you can't digivolve into this, it fucking sucks. It really sucks, and I wish there was a better way we could do it. You could maybe play less of this, and then fill more of your Greymons to digivolve on top of your rookies. But then you miss out on the inheritable, and the inheritable is another layer of immunity. We've got so many different layers of protection in this deck. So we want to have it, and it's frustrating. It can be really frustrating. But it is what it is at the end of the day. If we wanted to play just a purely red base, then we absolutely could. But then we miss out on the searchers, and then you've got the issue of this doesn't digivolve on top of your eggs, and but then again, this is cheaper, and Greymon is a balancing act, guys. If you're, like I always say with any of my deck profiles, if you're not a fan of the list, just let me know what kind of ways you play things, because I like to get ideas from you guys as much as you guys like to get ideas from me. So I definitely, it's just a balancing act with Greymon stuff. I've kind of, as a big fan of Greymon, I absolutely love the Greymon line. They'll always be my favourites. But I, generally speaking, have had a love-hate relationship with the Greymon archetype as a deck for a while. Because I love it because it's my favourite Digimon, but I hate it because the support is all over the fucking place. It's just we try and make it as best as we can. But anyways, enough of a rant. Let's go into the rest of the Greymon. So we've got the structure deck Greymon as well. This one has a security effect to play an Agumon or a Tamer card with Tai Kamiya in its name from hand or trash without paying the cost, which is not bad. Has blocker as well. Digivolves on top of any Agumon in name for 2. And also has that when attack target is switched, gain 1 memory, inheritable as well, which is all turns, by the way. Then, of course, we've got Greymon X, and I wish this was not limited, but it's never coming off the limitation list. The more and more multicolor Greymons we get that are level 5, the less and less this comes off of the ban list. I so wish it could. And I still would love to play like an unlimited format on this channel. I think that'd be really fun. But Greymon X is never coming off the ban list. I have to kind of accept it. If it ever does, I'll eat a hat. I will eat a hat if it comes off of the limitation list. But we all know why this Greymon X is great. It reduces the cost of your Digivolution by 1 for each of the card's colours that you're going into. So both of these Greymons, for example, these RizeGreymons, they're both dual colour, so they'll both be reduced by 2, which means that this one is going to be 1 cost, which is crazy, and then has that same protection effect as the Agumon X as well, so it's just a fantastic card. Then we've got the Greymon from BT12. This one, if you don't have a Tamer with Tai Kamiya in its name, irrespective of how many Tamers are already out, you may play 1 Tamer card with Tai Kamiya in its name from your hand without paying the cost. So it just lets you get your Tai out, which will give you your 1k in blocker, start netting your memory. It also gives you an all turns boost. Greymon on Omnimon in name, it gets 1000 DP, which isn't a lot, but it's there. And the BT12 Agumon also has that inheritable. Did forget to mention. Then going into our level 5, so we've got the RizeGreymon here. It has Raid. It digivolves for 4 on top of a red black or on top of a Greymon or CS trait for a cost of 3. And it simply does when digivolving, if you have 1 or fewer Tamers from your hand and without paying the cost, you may play 1 red or black Tamer with a play cost of 4 or less, or 1 Tamer card with the CS trait. So really nice, just lets you play out any Tamer generically, which is awesome. Which is why it's not an on play, it's just when digivolving kind of to balance it out. And then it's got security attack +1 as the inheritable, which is really, really nice. And then we've also got the RizeGreymon X. I decided to go with the RizeGreymon X mainly to facilitate Yuuya more, but also because I realized that there was in a world where you've got 6 exact cards in hand, which I know is copium. I know it's copium, but it's a really cool potential combo that you could do. You go into the Greymon to play out your Tai. You go into your Rise to play out your Yuuya, and then because Yuuko is red, you can play it out with RizeGreymon X. So and this one can play out, irrespective of how many Tamers you've got as well. So this one is limited by how many Tamers are out. This one is limited by if Tai is already out, whereas this one could just willy-nilly do as much as it likes. Could it be netting us more if we were playing a deck with more red Tamers? Sure, absolutely, but I wanted to try it out because of Bance. Is it technically the best thing we could be playing? Probably not. We'll get into the other kind of tech cards that we could be playing instead, but the fact that it plays out the Yuuko completely generically is really handy, I thought, especially like I say, in that perfect world, you go into the Greymon, you go into the Rise, you go into the Rise X, you play out all 3 of your Tamers in one turn. Because you just play out Tai with Greymon, play out Yuuya with your RizeGreymon, play out Yuuko with your RizeGreymon X. So really, really nice. Plus it also does gain 1000 DP for each Tamer you have in play, and that is irrespective of colour, so that's pretty cool. Kind of becomes a pseudo boss monster in that regard, with the security tap +1 from the RizeGreymon as well. Not bad. And then also if we've got RizeGreymon or X Antibody in our sources, after we've played out our Tamer, we then -2 for the turn for each yellow or red Tamer you have in play. So not going to be that much, at most -3k, but that's enough to make something that could be a really big problem a little bit smaller so that Gaiomon can deal with it. And Gaiomon gets massive, but there are some decks that could match it, like stuff like Apmon, for example. Like Gaiomon gets absolutely huge. Gaia and Gaio both getting huge. Imaginative. There are some decks that can get big enough, is what I'm saying. So, I quite like this RizeGreymon X. Like I say, is it technically the best one we could be playing? Probably not, but we'll get into some of those cards in a moment. Then going into our level 6s, of course, we've got the new BT22 Gaiomon. This guy is great. Raid and reboot. When digivolving, you may unsuspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then this Digimon may attack. So he literally does a Mortal Kombat, get over here kind of thing. And just like points at a guy and says, I'm fighting you and you don't have a choice, which is awesome. I assume if the Digimon has some sort of effect immunity, it's not going to unsuspend. But anything else that doesn't have that form of immunity, he is unsuspending and he will punch them. He will give them a good slap and slash. Then he also gets to attack as well. So you unsuspend something, and then this Digimon may attack, so it gives you a pseudo blitz, which is awesome. Then all turns, when attack targets change, this Digimon gains piercing and 5000 DP for the turn. So not only that, he then raids and is like, oh cool, I'm just gonna give myself some pictograms. just boost myself up. And also I'm going to, burst through your security as well after I knock into something. And on top of that, it's gonna be security tap +1. So it's just a really good card. I absolutely love it. I'm actually playing it over the promo Gaiomon. We'll get into the promo Gaiomon in the tech cards, but I also went with this one over that one. I would be tempted to put the promo one back in though, instead of the EX4 Gaiomon. Now EX4 is really cool because it's another way of triggering our Yuuya. And originally I was playing the new Gaiomon, this Gaiomon, and then the promo Gaiomon at 2 copies each, but I kept finding I wanted this one more because of how big it gets, and I kept finding that I wanted this because it does that cheeky trash. It lets us digivolve into another Gaiomon, so just helps us with getting that Yuuya protection. So I do really like this card, and it has gotten me game. So you can, if they've got one security left and you go into this Gaiomon and then immediately into this one, you've trashed their last security with this, then you get to attack in. So, obviously, if they've got something out, then you can decide whether or not you want to raid into it, but you won't be able to swing for game like that. But, I have in my testing gotten game by going Gaiomon EX4 into BT22. And then to round things off, I've actually got BlitzGreymon Ace. BlitzGreymon Ace I decided to go with because there are some instances where we've pushed out our level 5s a little early to try and get our Tamers on the board. So I figured a way of punishing people would be to go for BlitzGreymon Ace. If you wanted a D-Digivolver, you could also go for the Gaiomon from BT9. But I really like this one because it D-Digivolves 3. We're not going to be using the end of turns DNA into Omnimon Ultra S, but again, then one of your Digimon may attack, so it has got a kind of pseudo-blitz element to it. Security tap +1 as the inheritable, which could be handy for our level 7, which is Omnimon X, which... Omnimon X is kind of self-explanatory. Raid, piercing, blocker, on-play when digivolving. If you've got Omnimon or X Antibody, you delete everything other than two Digimon that are chosen, essentially. And then bottom deck's another Digimon, so it just clears boards on its own. And then end of turn, the really spicy part of it, of course, is one of your Digimon may gain rush for the turn and attack without suspending. So it just helps you with swinging for game, essentially. And then we're going to go into our Tamers, which are at a very specific 9 Tamer ratio. So we've got 4 of the Tai, and the reason why we've got 4 of the Tai is we want to have blocker on our Gaiomon. At one point I was actually and again this is in the tech cards, but I was playing the BT8 Greymon, so we had the blocker inheritable, but I just found I wanted the memory gain and the DP boosts more, so instead I opted to go for 4 of the Tai, gives you 1000 in blocker to one of your Agumon or Greymons at start of main and on play, and lets you gain memory whenever you go into your Greymons and Omnimons. So, you know, really, really good card. Definitely want it as 4. Then Yuuko, I've got at 3, tempted to push her up to 4, and I'll explain why when we get to Yuuya. But essentially what she does is start of main, if your opponent has a Digimon, gain 1 memory. Awesome. And then all turns, when an attack target change, by suspending this Tamer for the turn, your opponent's Digimon effects don't affect one of your Digimon with Greymon in its name or the CS trait, and it gets 3000 DP. So remember, that is for the turn. So if you want to use it on both your turn and your opponent's turn, you're going to want to go, okay, cool, raid, do the thing, cool, then have another one out, cool, you've attacked him, blocker. You know, she can also, you know, trigger really nicely with the promo one, because you force something to attack start of main, and that will then swing in, you then block, you then get your effect immunity, and you get, you know, swole. So there is that, you know. Again, another reason why I'd be tempted to put the promo one back in. She has also got some like Eater Eve type stuff as well, but we're not playing Eater Eve in this, so I'm not going to bother going with that. But Yuuko is great. Just, you've got to remember that Digimon effect immunity is only for the turn. It would be absolutely busted if she was for until the end of your opponent's turn, which is what I originally thought, and then realised in testing was like, oh, well, I've just been cheating, you know. So but it is only for the turn. Then we're going to go to Yuuya, who is our memory tamer, and honestly, as much as I like the fact we get Digimon effect immunity and option effect immunity, I'm kind of tempted to cut Yuuya. And the reason being is there aren't a lot of decks that are using options for their removal at the moment. Most decks are using removal for cost reductions and consistency. There aren't a lot that are using, you know, stuff like Gaia Force, you know, way back in the day, or Hades Force, or, you know, fucking Great Maelstrom, I think it's called. You know, any of those sort of bouncing effects, deletion effects. The only one I can think of is Ragnarok Cannon from the Galacticmon deck, but I think that deck's probably going to start falling out of favour a bit at the moment. But the option effect immunity doesn't really come up. At least it didn't come up in my testing, because, you know, I'm very much I build for consistency. I don't really have these big option security bombs, and as far as I'm aware, I don't really think anyone else is right now. Like, I know there was a spell where everyone at locals was playing Heaven's Judgment and stuff, but that's not in there anymore. So yeah, Yuuya is in a bit of a weird place. You could definitely replace this with some other memory tamers, or just cut him out entirely. You know, just put Yuuko to 4, and put in another Garnet memory boost, something like that. You know, so you could cut him entirely. To kind of go to his effect exactly whilst we have got him, essentially when you digivolve into a Greymon in name, you suspend the tamer, and then you gain 2000 DP and until the end of the opponent's turn. And if your Greymon digivolved into a same level Digimon, so a Greymon X, a RizeGreymon X, a Gaiomon, whatever, it isn't affected by your opponent's option cards until the end of your opponent's turn. So really, really nice kind of effect to give you this option effect immunity. You've then got Digimon effect immunity coupled with option effect immunity, which is pretty nice. The only things that can affect you then are tamers. So it is pretty much full-on immunity, but like I say, options are not being used as much in the meta at the moment, so I'm kind of tempted to cut him, if I'm honest. Then going into our utility cards, we've got Garnet Memory Boost. It just grabs us all of our Digimon that are black and all of our Digimon that are red, and we have got a couple of outliers that are not black, so Greymon X, Omnimon X, and RizeGreymon X. They're all red, so we're going to need something to search them out. Gives us a memory when we do the delay, so not bad. And then we've got Protoform, and Protoform is kind of another self-explanatory card, really, really good. I've only got 2 copies because I've only got 2 copies of it, you know, so there's that. But also, you're not really needing it as much in this. You get so much effect immunity, you don't always need the protection from these guys. But the Protoform is in there to help cheapen your Digivolution costs. So the moment you go into this Gaiomon, for example, it's really nice, because then it's only going to cost 3, and then you Digivolve up into this Gaiomon for free. You know, so really nice. But Protoform also gives you a little bit of recovery as well. But yeah, really nice. So let's now, that is the full kind of deck as I'm playing it now. Let's take a look at some tech cards quick. Okay, so let's talk about our tech cards quickly. So we have a lot of stuff to cover over, so I'm going to try and go as quickly as I can. We're not going to go in depth to all of these. But essentially, if you wanted to go more of a red base which, you know, it's absolutely fine. You can absolutely do that. You could go with these different egg options. You could go with the BT5 for the draw, go with the BT9 for the DP, Koromon for the draw, or the Digimon if you want to go for more for a Dragonkin slot kind of feel. That's absolutely, you know, still a valid deck option to go with. You know, you'll lose out on some of the Greymon names, but, you know, you get enough of them. Then, in terms of your Agumons, you could go for the BT14 one. This digivolves on top of any Koromon, so you could play it in a black base as well. I have before. I've played it in black base Greymon. And essentially, if you've got a Tai, you can digivolve up into a Greymon for free. You know, which, granted, one of the main Greymons we're playing is playing out Tais, and is not going to play out any more Tais if we've already got Tai. But this can still do really well, you know, for that, and gives us again another big DP boost. Although saying that, we boost ourselves so much we don't always need it. You could also go with stuff like the BT21 for similar kind of reasons, returning stuff from trash. This one also, the BT22 one, does also return stuff from trash. You're probably never going to be using the DNA unless you put in like Garnet and an Omnimon that Alter S package. But you know, there's that. You know, if you go for that Dragonkin slot, Elizamon is great. You've got this one for kind of searching for your Tamers and Agumons. You've got the Agumon from BT8, sorry, that I mentioned earlier, that searches your Dragonkins and your Greymons. And just checking with this one, yes, so this EX1 one, if you attack in, it will add any Tamer card to your hand, so it can add your Yuukos and your Yuuyas, so that's pretty good. Going into the Greymons, EX1 helps you play out your ties. Of course, there's the classic Unga Bunga Security Stat +1 Greymon to help you do more checks. You know, so if you wanted to go for a more aggressive version, you know, definitely red base with the Security Stat +1s. You could add this one in for the start of mains to force them to attack in. The reboot inheritable is absolutely not needed on Gaiomon, but saying that, the EX4 doesn't have it, so there's that. Also, the BlitzGreymon that we're currently playing also does not have reboot, so not actually that useless really. There's the EX9 one, so this one just gives you a DP boost and stuff like that. There's also the BT14 one, similar one, but I have not gotten the card in here. I've only just thought of it actually. You've got the BT17 Greymon for, you know, playing stuff out, helps delete stuff, play out your ties when it's deleted. You've got the Metal Greymon X if you want to go for more of a attacking red based version, so you've got your Metal Greymons and you do that. You can absolutely play this deck with Metal Greymons instead of RizeGreymons. In fact, I was originally testing with the BT11 Metal Greymon X because that was another layer of protection, D-Digivolution protection and DP reduction protection, which, so if we didn't have our Digimon effect immunity, at least we were covered on those two bases. So if you wanted to go for total you know, diplomatic immunity, you're going to be playing Yuuko, Yuuya, and this, and your Greymon X's, you know, so it's really good. And plus the opponent's turn effect to trash something when you become unsuspended is really good because, you know, Gaiomon has got that reboot available. There's lots of other Metal Greymon options as well. We've got the Alteris mode for more protection, you know, and also deleting some stuff. We've got the Ace, but I wouldn't recommend using the Ace really. There's the EX9 one, so you could potentially take out the RizeGreymon and just have, you know, RizeGreymon X, sorry, and have the RizeGreymon and this. So RizeGreymon could play at Tamers and have Security Tap +1 inheritable. This could delete stuff and have a Security Tap +1 inheritable. So that's actually pretty good. If you wanted to make more of a big, you know, I'm going to OTK them type build, you know, you could essentially play this deck like the current kind of Antibody WarGreymon list, where you've got you know, the Security Tap +1s from Greymon, from this, from Metal Greymon X, plus the Security Tap +1 from WarGreymon as well. Granted, you'd miss out on that Security Tap +1, so you probably wouldn't have the OTK as consistently. But, you know, Gaiomon could definitely be a backup for that, you know, in that deck. It gains the piercing at the very least, and gains a massive DP boost, so it can actually get over stuff that is going to be quite sizable, that the BT14 WarGreymon can't. You know, I have also put that BT14 WarGreymon here as well, because you could play them in the same deck. There's absolutely, you know, ways you could do that. Going back to our level 5s, there's the Alteris mode, digivolving up into a level 6 if you play out a Tai. So that is pretty darn nice, you know, going up into that Gaiomon for free, you know, not bad at all. There's the Digivolution one. You could go to Skull Greymon because the new Gaiomon can digivolve on top of it. This one, maybe not so much because you've already got the piercing, but this would help you with playing out your Tamers. So, you know, there is that. The BT21 Greymon, that could work in the deck. It's got raid, so we like that. Black Greymon for that Tamer deletion. The old Gaiomon for the Digivolution and Security Tab +1. We've got the Greymon, very similar card to Gaiomon for BT22 with the raid. This kind of the predecessor to that in a way. There's the promo Gaiomon, like I mentioned earlier. Very tempted to put this one back in. It's kind of the more defensive brother to the BT22 one, whereas this one's got reboot and blocker. The BT22 one has reboot and raid, and this one kind of forces them to attack in, trashes something when you are going to do an attack switch. Whereas the BT22 Gaiomon is a bit more like, nah, I'm a punch. You could also play Greymon Ace because Yuuya, Yuuko, sorry, getting them mixed up, is 2-color, so you have a 2-color Tamer that's a bit more accessible now. Granted, the Yuuko gives you the same protection that this does, the Digimon effect immunity, but this one gives it to you until the end of your opponent's turn, and will give it to you based on your Tamer colours, whereas Yuuko will only do it on attack target switch before their turn. Going back to, you could play Owen. Granted, the new Gaiomon has piercing, so I'm not too sure if you would, but if you wanted to play it in Dragonkin slot, that's not a bad option. Raging Serpentine, great as well. You could play Breakthrough of Courage. I don't necessarily vibe by that because Yuuko kind of does the job of this card a lot easier, but you could play it. And then of course you could play Hades Force. It gets rid of Tamers, it helps get rid of big Digimon. It's not a bad removal tool, and there are some decks that are very reliant on Tamers, like Adventure, Royal Knights to an extent with the Cool Boys. There are still some hybrid decks around, so not a bad card at all. But that is our whistle stop tour of all of these different tech cards, guys. How are you guys playing Gaiomon? Are you playing it more red? Are you playing it more black like me? I say I'm playing it more black at the it's more I'm playing it black at the moment. I may very well decide, I want to play it red base instead for the fun, because it is very much more unga bunga. I mean, I could pretty much see it now. Put in your ST1 Greymon, put in your Security Tab +1 Metal Greymon alongside RizeGreymon. You could possibly put in Metal Greymon X for more Sec +1 as well. There's some big things you could do with it just to go absolutely go smash. But I do really like my version as it stands now for that utility and for the layers upon layers of immunity. But let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell until we see you again. Keep it digital.